again for another interview. Today, we're thrilled because we're going to have Peter Stock, the president of HSLDA Canada, a key figure in the global homeschooling movement. And he's going to tell us about the ideas that he's going to bring to the wonderful event, the GHEX 2024 Manchester Global Event. I'm sure you're coming too, aren't you? Peter has been at the forefront of legislative efforts to support and protect homeschooling education in Canada, drawing from over a decade of personal homeschooling experience with his wife, Tara. HSLDA Canada has expanded its services to advocate for homeschooling rights across all provinces and territories, ensuring that home education remains a respected and viable option for families nationwide. And here he is. Hello, Peter. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Erika. It's great to be with you.
I am so excited. 11th, 13th of July, we're going to be together in Manchester. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's coming quickly and it's exciting. And I know people are signing up from around the world to be with us. So it's going to be a great event. We haven't gathered for a number of years now. COVID kind of interrupted things. And so this is our first global gathering since 2018.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about that 2018 meeting?
Yeah, so there have been three in-person global conferences so far, one in Berlin, one in Rio de Janeiro, and then the last time around it was in Russia. The conference was split between St. Petersburg and Moscow, and we had several hundred delegates from around the world attending, and many people locally who came and joined in as well. So it was quite an event, well over 1,000 people attending.
The landscape of home education is as diverse as all the countries and cultures that embrace it. And being in Manchester, we're really going to get a taste of this and a taste of that and all these different ways of doing home education. Understanding all these approaches, the legal frameworks, the educational philosophies employed around the world is very important. Could you just give us a little sneak peek? Tell us, what are the legal frameworks governing homeschooling in Canada, and how do they vary across the provinces?
Yeah, so Canada's a little unusual compared to most countries around the world in that education is not governed at the national level. So we don't have one educational policy for the whole country. Instead, the 10 provinces and 3 territories all have their own educational laws. And so home education as well varies from province to province and through the northern territories. Our territories are in the Arctic region. They're cold most of the year and very unpopulated. But yeah, those 13 different jurisdictions all have their own educational law and policy. And so we have some provinces like Ontario, our most populated province, where the city of Toronto is located and also the capital, Ottawa. And it's what you might call a very open or free jurisdiction. So home educators in Ontario have not very few regulations or rules to follow. And so they have a great deal of choice in how they choose to pursue their home education. Right next door in the province of Quebec, which is second most populated province and shares a unique history with both French and English-speaking peoples living in Quebec, the restrictions are far more severe or onerous, and parents have an awful lot of paperwork to fill out, meetings to attend, and their children, homeschooled students, actually have to write public school exams. So at the end of the year, they go off to the public schools and write exams in the public schools. That's unusual in all the rest of Canada, but we've got that wide spectrum of very free home education to very tightly regulated and controlled home education just between those two provinces. And of course, quite a spectrum right across the country from free to controlled.
This is very interesting. It sounds familiar to the Italian method because Italian homeschoolers also have to sit the exam in public schools once a year. It's not a pleasant experience at times. You know, you have to be prepared, and schools sometimes don't understand the importance of home education and how to deal with learners that are outside of the box. So I can understand the challenges. And I really think that, our global meeting in Manchester is going to be so important because we need to raise awareness and make connections. It's important. There's a very important need for international awareness regarding all these ways of home educating and how each one of us is dealing with it. Seeing your deep involvement with advocacy and all the work you've been doing in Canada, have you observed a significant growth or shift among the homeschooling demographics in your country lately?
Yes, COVID, as it affected, people right around the world, affected, the educational landscape in Canada in a big way. And what we saw happen was schools were shut down in Canada, as they were in many places. Parents kind of got a little deeper glimpse into what was going on in the school system, and decided that in some cases, maybe they could do a better job themselves, or they could do it differently. And so a number of families did sort of venture forth and attempt home education. We got a lot of feedback from these families. And what they told us is, we're seeing our kids excel academically in a way they never did before. We're seeing a reduction in anxiety. Our kids are far less anxious than they were when they were in the school system. And we're enjoying this. We're enjoying our time together as a family. So the great majority of these families that started home educating during COVID have stuck with it and are still home educating today. And we're continuing to see the numbers grow. So we went from a situation where there were roughly 100,000 students across the country of Canada. Canada is a nation of 40 million people. So there were 100,000 students roughly home educating before COVID hit. Today, a few years later, we believe they're just over 200,000. So we've seen the numbers approximately double in the last few years, which is very exciting.
It is indeed. And I remember speaking to some mothers during the COVID times, and they were embarrassed to tell me that they were having a great time with their children at home. And they were a little bit worried because they're like, it's really hard and terrible and the pandemic and all this. But I'm having such a lovely time with my child. I would never let go. And I said, why don't you consider home education? It's very similar to what you're telling me. And so many people, it raised awareness. And it was amazing for so many reasons. As I said, I really can't wait to go to the meeting and, making preparations. Even my family, some members of my family will attend. And, I invite everybody to come because participants during this meeting will have the opportunity to delve into workshops, keynote speeches. There's going to be panel discussions led by leading figures in the homeschooling community, best practices in education, legal challenges and solutions, you name it. It's going to be there. You really should be there if you're interested in home education. Peter, could you tell us a little bit about the theme? Because homeschooling works, it does work. How did you get to this theme? How did it come to be?
Yeah, it's a simple term, isn't it? That home education works. But it's something that as home educating parents, we both know it does work. And the evidence is all around us with those in our community, the academic research that says home education works. And increasingly the number of policymakers, politicians who are recognizing the value that home education brings to a nation as well. So that the theme sort of naturally spilled out, and we want to make that statement to the world. We want to demonstrate it, we want to prove it, and we want to share the value that home education brings. So yes, home education works for our families, it works for our nations.
It does. And we're going to have several tracks. Tell us, which one is your favorite track? Which one is the one that interests you?
That's a tough one. Well, let me tell you what the 4 tracks are. We will have plenary sessions where everybody's included, and we'll hear from some top speakers in a range of fields, including researchers, politicians, and homeschool leaders from around the world. But we have 4 tracks set up. The first is a family track, and most people who've been to a homeschool conference anywhere have participated in something similar to this. where there are topics that are relevant to your family homeschooling. So we expect great attendance at that. And second track is the research track. So we have academic researchers coming from literally around the world who are coming to share their research papers. They've been studying home education in Asia, in Africa, in South and Central America, North America, Europe, all over the place. And what may not surprise anybody is that the findings are similar. Doesn't matter where you go. There's some commonality amongst researchers in their findings that, again, home education works. Third track is the advocacy track. So advocacy, this is about the work. It's the work my organization does and the work that you do and so many others do as leaders in the home education movement. We reach out to the policymakers that are in our country and we say, look, we care about this. This is valuable. Take it seriously. Pass better laws, better regulations so that we can do what we do well. In fact, mostly what we ask is stay out of our way. As parents, we can offer great education to our kids. We don't need government telling us what to do. And so the advocacy track is all focused on how do we make the case to government? How do we make the case in court? And so we've got politicians coming from around the world to come and share with us what they see happening in their legislatures and have a conversation with us about how do we approach them successfully and get the policies that achieve the policies that we're all interested in seeing. The final track is the leadership and organizational track. And this is designed specifically for those who are leading an organization of any sort, whether it be a local organization or a national organization, no matter what country you're from. And so we'll be focusing on topics that relate to that, how to get your organization going, fundraising, dealing with the media, and all those sorts of questions that might be relevant to you if you are either starting or running a national organization, a local organization. So there's something for everybody in this. If you're interested in home education on any level, from just your own family's interests to, as I say, running a national organization, there is something of interest for you here. And so you'd be very welcome to come and join us, join with people from literally all over the world. It's so exciting.
I'm going to be on the family track and I want to meet a lot of families and we're there to help everybody, find their way. And regarding Canada, I'm just curious, what are the primary challenges that Canadian families face when they're transitioning? Maybe, as you said, somebody was in the school system and then COVID struck, or they just decided they wanted to start home education. What are these challenges that they face, and how does HSLDA Canada support them in the transition?
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. We've been home educating in this country probably for the last 40 years, and about 5-10 years in, it was recognized we need help. We need expert professional help, legal help to defend our families, because there's so many officials that don't understand what home education is all about, and so we need a lawyer who can represent us in court or before the legislatures and make the case for home education. So families got together, founded our organization, and 30 years later, despite the fact that home education is legal in all 10 provinces, all 3 territories, we still have a problem that many officials, many government agencies, school boards, and others don't either understand the law or don't necessarily respect it. And so we continue to have a need for legal and professional help to represent us, again, in court, before tribunals, and before legislatures. And so that's the work we do. When it comes to the individual family, there is a great deal of freedom, as I was mentioning, in most parts of the country. But making the transition is actually quite challenging. If you're making the start, it's not simply a matter of changing the flavor of ice cream that you enjoy or buying a different brand of clothing or something like that. It is a full lifestyle change. Families typically need to give up, if they're a dual income family, they typically need to give up an income so one parent can stay at home with their kids. So there's a financial aspect to it. There are other lifestyle changes. You probably need to develop community around your homeschooling. So seeking out other homeschoolers so that you can meet together and do activities together and field trips together and sports and all the other things that you might like to do. That's pretty essential as well. And just the idea that you're taking responsibility for your children's education. There's some planning involved, and there's some purchasing involved. You've got to seek out curriculum that will work for your child. Again, a challenge there is not that there isn't curriculum. There is a lot of curriculum. What do you choose, though? How do I make a choice about what's going to work best for this particular child? And by the way, what works best for one child doesn't always work well for the next one. So we have to be willing to be flexible and adjust. And so there are a lot of elements to making the choice to home educate. It is hard work, undoubtedly, but it's also very rewarding, both for the children who benefit and for the family as a whole. So.
And in Italy, it's really hard for us, for example, to find lawyers as well. It's really hard. So that's why looking up to you and thinking that would be great to have the same situation, the same system set up in Italy. They're lawyers and they practice and maybe they're expert in school matters. They don't really understand how to deal with families who home educate. And it's a pity. We want more. This is my request out there. If you're listening and you're an Italian lawyer, contact me because we need you. We need you. And this global conference in Manchester, it will also spotlight the importance of digital literacy. We're going to talk about this. It's so important, and socialization, of course, and community involvement, as you said. And it will ensure that all the attendees leave with valuable knowledge and also resources to support their journeys. How old are your children now?
My wife and I have 4 kids, 22-year-old, 20-year-old, 17-year-old, and 13-year-old. And so 2 of them are university age. Actually, one's just finishing this year. One's halfway through. One is finished secondary school, or high school, as it's called in North America. And then the final one is just finishing elementary school and entering into the high school or secondary school years.
And from your perspective, how has homeschooling adapted to the demands of the 21st century, especially in terms of digital literacy and preparing students for a globalized world?
Yeah, actually, I think we're probably ahead of the curve. The challenge, and it's nobody's fault, but the challenge with a public school system or a school system of any sort is that they tend to be slow to adapt. And home educators, we can change and adapt in the middle of the school year if we have to. We don't have to wait for decisions to be made at a higher level or anything like that. We can just go with things. So when I think about home education and where we are today, online learning is a big thing. If we want to take a course that's being offered from another place, even another country, we can do that. Home educators are learning second languages from native language speakers in foreign countries. It's quite common in Canada for a home educator who wants to learn Spanish, for example, to have online classes with a tutor who lives in a country like Guatemala, for example, and do one-on-one tutoring. It's amazing. We can do that now. And so they can learn real conversational Spanish one-on-one and at a very reasonable price. So there's some very exciting possibilities that way. We're also seeing that the same possibilities open up to us in the post-secondary education years as well, where more and more students are taking advantage of online learning at the post-secondary level, online universities and so on. So whether you do your whole university career that way or you just want to take a course or two, that world is certainly opened up in a big, big way.
It is. And, we don't know what the future is going to look like. And we want to build a strong character. We want to have the time to dedicate to that, to the soft skills, life skills. And unfortunately, in school, it's very hard to find them. So I really believe in what you said. And what about socializing? This topic, we're going to discuss it at the global meeting. Of course, everybody's accusing homeschoolers of not socializing enough. How did you tackle this challenge, let's call it like this. Let's be a little mainstream with your kids.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And for those outside the homeschooling world, many people labor under the impression that homeschoolers spend their day at home. And of course, this is actually not true. Homeschoolers travel. Homeschoolers may spend part of the day at home doing formal book learning, math and writing and those language arts, those sorts of things. But they also spend a considerable part of the day elsewhere. And that could be doing the field trips, going to museums, sports, music lessons, and also gathering with other homeschoolers. So we tend to do this. We tend to gather in what we might call support groups or cooperatives, where we pool together our resources and say, hey, this parent is experienced or gifted in teaching biology, and this parent is great with math, and this parent is great with the language arts, and so we might spend a morning together where our kids are getting some instruction from others outside the home as well. So we draw on all the resources that are available to us: relatives, friends, other homeschoolers, grandparents, you name it, and then our kids also have that opportunity to gather with other homeschooling children and socialize. So our kids find themselves in social situations, different social situations, multiple times a day potentially, whether it's going to this lesson or this group or that group, this trip, etc. They may be gathering with several different groups of people, even in a single day.
And it's such a diverse environment and different ages and stages, and you can learn so much. I remember when my kids were little, all together with other children, and I was watching them interact with a newborn. That newborn was teaching them patience, how to be delicate, how to speak in a certain way. It was adorable and also enlightening to watch this happen, because you might think, what does a baby have to teach? Well, so much. And it was beautiful to watch them together. We're getting to the end of this interview, but I have a curiosity, little question. Do you have any transformative story or case study where homeschooling really made a significant impact on a student's life or a family's life, on a journey of some sort, in Canada in general, or throughout all your experience?
Yeah, well, what I'll say is this: home education, in very general terms, is of incredible benefit to children who have exceptional needs. And there's a very significant portion of children who do have some sort of learning challenge or learning need that can't as easily be met in a structured school environment. So the home educating environment provides some advantages over a school environment, one of which is, of course, they're getting individualized instruction, which is so helpful. You're not one of 30 kids or whatever. You're the only student in a sense. The second thing is the anxiety is taken out of the situation. There's no chance for bullying or pressure from others that you would face in a school environment. And by the way, that applies to everybody. It's not just kids with exceptional needs, but the anxiety is taken right out of education at home. And the third, of course, is that you are with a most trusted and loving adult who is giving their attention to you. So the desire to learn is there, and the trust is there. And so students who have these learning challenges are much better equipped in the home environment. So you asked me that question, a transformative story. The truth is, I'm aware of so many of these stories where a child was struggling in the school system, and the parent said, I'm going to try and educate this child at home, and they've excelled. I have staff members who have these who can tell these stories. One that comes to mind is of a student who was told, "Oh, this child will never amount to anything. They're not going anywhere." Well, the mother took that child out of the system, home educated him through all the elementary and secondary years. He went off to university. He now has his doctorate in history from the most prestigious university in the country. So, never amount to anything. That's not true, and never was true. But the school system is not capable of giving the time and attention to children who have learning challenges that we can give as parents at home. And that is the difference. It's not that we have some special ability, but we do have a special relationship with our kids, and it fosters a learning environment that is, quite frankly, superior to what they can find anywhere else.
Your words are so inspiring, and I'm sure someone out there, some mother, some father, is listening to you and saying, I really want to try. I really want to see. I want to go beyond what they told me in the school system, and very, very inspiring. Finally, as we conclude our conversation, Peter, really thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to see you in Manchester. And I'm sure you guys too, all of you. What would be your call to action for homeschooling communities and authorities worldwide? How could they contribute to get involved in this cause?
Yeah, so first of all, we want to encourage those who can attend to attend. And, if you're in Europe, flights are relatively inexpensive to get to England. If you're from another part of the world, maybe you have relatives that are in Europe or in England, and you could mix in a visit. And so we'd love to have you. For those that can't come, we will record some of the sessions, and they will be available down the road. But gathering in person is so valuable. Building the relationships that we've built over the years, and the ability to learn from others. Of course, that's what education is, largely, is learning what others have learned, sort of taking in and ingesting and running with what we learned from others. So we have leaders coming from countries who've dealt with every situation you will ever deal with in your country. There are people who've done it before. We've had the experience. And we have the organizations, and we want to share our knowledge, our experience with you. We want to encourage you. We want to inspire you, and we want to help you find a way forward. So if you're facing challenges in your country, this is a great place to come and find answers. How am I going to meet these challenges? And you also develop a community, a network of friends who will stand with you and help you face these challenges. So, again, the conference is open to anyone who's homeschooling. It's a fabulous event. It's a unique event. And, we move around the world with this conference. So it might be a while before we're even back in Europe. Who knows? This is a bit of a unique opportunity, maybe for some a once in a lifetime opportunity. But if you can make it happen, we'd strongly encourage you to be there, and look forward to meeting you.
Thank you, Peter, so much for this interview, and see you soon.
Thank you, Erika.
In conclusion, our conversation with Peter Stock has showed the vital work being carried out by HSLDA Canada and highlighted the importance of international collaboration and exchange, as exemplified by the Global Conference in Manchester. Please mark down the dates, 11th to the 13th of July. We're expecting you to come, because this event promises to be a cornerstone for fostering global connections within the homeschooling community, offering insights on strategies to navigate the complexities of home education in the 21st century. So I will see you there to ensure that the future generations of homeschoolers are equipped with the skill, with the knowledge, and the support they need to thrive in an ever-changing global landscape. See you there. Bye.